Hello everyone and welcome back to a split review, and in this video I'm going to review Death Ceremonies by Rudolf Eb.er and Controlled Death. It's only been like a few weeks and I'm still talking about a brand new project that has to do with Controlled Death. In a very short period of time, Controlled Death has managed to have a pretty overwhelming and quite big discography. This is though a project that I highly anticipated because I do enjoy lots of the works of Rudolf Eb.er, and this album is also made in Cold Spring, which in my opinion is one of the best underground labels that exist nowadays. This is also not the first time these two work together, since both of them have actually worked in the past in projects that would have to do with their more extreme names, with like Ruzelstream and Gurgelstock and Masona. Those two have done splits before, showing some of their darker and their more extreme side. This project on the other hand is more balanced and it goes more into the direction that both of those artists tend to go nowadays. And that's the thing with this album. I don't think that none of the two sides that are presented over here from both artists really present something all that different compared to what they do with their later works. And with that being said, the two sides can be quite one-dimensional. Rudolf Eb.er's side has nothing to do with what Controlled Death presents, obviously, so we're talking about two very different sides that I wouldn't necessarily say they complement each other all that well, and I think that both of those artists do not show their highest strength as musicians in the sounds they're mostly known for, which is kind of unfortunate. I obviously didn't expect something really that different from both of those sides, but for the most part we truly get some quite standard and quite predictable moments from both of those artists. Now in my opinion the side of Rudolf Eb.er is much better, but still, talking about a project of Rudolf Eb.er, this is not one of the strongest things he has to offer. And we're talking about, in both occasions, 8 tracks that go for about 2 minutes, and all of the project by itself goes for around 40 minutes. We do have 16 tracks, there's a lot of material over here, but most of it is really short, and I don't think that every single moment over here really offers that much to this whole thing, since in its majority this whole thing sounds quite identical and quite samey. Like, getting into the Rudolf Eb.er tracks, you know what to expect getting into this very bizarre sound art experience. These 8 tracks are filled with various recordings that can create a quite dark and unsettling atmosphere at times, and also compared to some other recent works, you can find some quite noisy passages throughout some of those tracks. There are moments of intensity. As far as there are various intriguing sounds though through this whole thing, and I like the sound for the most part, most of those sounds end up becoming quickly identical and repeating themselves into some of the tracks that come forward. In my opinion, part 1 makes for some of the better moments, and then we have tracks like 5 and 6, which in my opinion makes for the better sort of continuation and conclusion out of both of those moments. But honestly, there's not really all that much to talk about with this particular release, and the same pretty much with everything that has to do with the side of Controlled Death. In my opinion, if you are familiar with some of the sounds with some of the previous projects, there's not really something that intriguing through this whole thing, and I would actually say it makes for some of the most standard moments. I still find that it can emit a quite dark atmosphere that I think can be presented nicely with the parts 5 and 6. However, when it comes to some of the longer moments with the part 1 and the part 3 that go for 5 and 4 minutes each, it actually makes for some of the most boring and most uninteresting moments out of this whole project. And I really don't like how some of those very long drawn passages can become easily monotonous. If you are familiar with the sound of both of those artists with some of their more recent material, you pretty much know what to expect. Unfortunately, Personally, this is a predictable album, and I don't think that both of those artists put some of their greatest and their most focused material in this whole thing. Instead, I would say that it feels a bit rushed. I don't feel that all of the ideas complement themselves all that well. Just thinking the two sides don't complement themselves at all. And I find that as far as there are still intriguing moments and some parts that you can find quite enjoyable and a really intense dark atmosphere, I find this to be a slightly weak split in both fronts and a bit of a disappointment, considering that I was definitely hoping for something more cohesive from both of those artists who have done some very intriguing works in the past. But this is more of the same without that much of a development to the sound that we are familiar with them already. I'm gonna give Death Ceremonies a 6 out of 10. What's your opinion on this split? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.